Hello everyone, today is 26th of November, now it's 11 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment. Although before I start, let me notice that later on today at evening I will publish second news update on my Patreon and Boosty pages with all the additional main news that Russian media will report about, and most likely also this evening I will publish on my Patreon and Boosty new episode of News of the Day. And if you are looking for more news from Russia, more commentary, more than welcome to join our communities on Patreon and Boosty. That will be great support for my work. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. That being said, let's go through some news now. And well, as you notice, dear friends, nowadays almost every news update looks like some sort of countdown for Third World War. And unfortunately, today's news update not an exception. And we have this report, for example, from Vzglyad newspaper, and many other media outlets also reported that yesterday night, formerly Kiev regime, in reality Pentagon, of course, Washington, conducted yet another long-range missile strike deep into Russian territory with US-made ATACMS missiles. The Russian Defense Ministry shared with public short information that the Russian air defense systems intercepted a number of ballistic missiles. Although other sources, independent channels on Telegram, some media outlets reported that 8 ATACMS missiles were launched towards Kursk region, and one of the main targets of this attack was one of the airfields in that region. Airfield that was undergoing construction work, modernization process, and at this moment there was no planes on that airfield, according to reports that I see. Shelters were built for planes, and therefore fighter jets, fighter bombers, helicopters were deployed to another airfield. But strike did take place anyways, and some reports are suggesting that from these 8, 6 or 7 ATACMS were intercepted. One managed to hit airfield with a cluster munition warhead, and videos are circulating on internet with some explosions, although obviously officials did not share much information about it, and therefore I cannot confirm that those videos that are circulating on internet are really about this strike or not. In any case, long-range strike deep into Russian territory had happened. This was acknowledged by Defense Ministry also, and this happened after Russia deployed Oreshnik missile system a couple of days ago as a sort of demonstration. As you know, Russian Oreshnik medium-range missile system targeted Yuzhmash factory in Dnipropetrovsk, and their hope was, at least among some people, that Western ruling class will take this demonstrative strike by Russian forces as a reason to start de-escalating, reason to come to their senses. But unfortunately, it did not happen, and they are further escalating with long-range strikes deep into Russian territory, and I'm afraid in upcoming days we will see more strikes on Russia with ATACMS, with US ATACMS, with British Storm Shadows, with French Scalp EG missiles. Yesterday, during the second update on my Patreon and Boost pages, I said that because of this attack on Russia, tomorrow, theoretically speaking, it is possible that tomorrow we will wake up in a very different world. During the night, nothing happened. Russia did not retaliate for this attack. And you might ask, will Russia retaliate this time? I don't know, dear friends. Maybe or maybe not. As I said, Russian Defense Ministry shared really short information, just factual information that number of ballistic missiles were intercepted. And in Russian media, I did not really see much statements from officials about this new attack. And more than that, even though state-affiliated media like RT, RIA Novosti, TASS news agency, even though they reported on this topic, they reported that there was longer range strike conducted on Russian territory. Shortly after, they take these informations from their first pages on their websites. And when I noticed that, I was thinking maybe these media outlets independently come up with such an idea, or maybe there was some signals from Kremlin that they don't want this topic to be discussed much. Maybe my understanding is mistaken, by the way, but I'm sharing my opinion here. And maybe Moscow not planning to retaliate for this attack. That's why this information was taken out from first pages, because it is a major development, isn't it? Yet another long-range strike deep into Russian territory. Maybe Moscow not planning to retaliate for this attack, or maybe Moscow is taking more time to better prepare a retaliatory step. And also, of course, one of the reasons why this topic was not really discussed significantly in the media is that I guess media outlets and also Kremlin don't want public to be stressed too much, right? Am I using correct language here? In any case, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know if Russia will retaliate for this attack and strike or not. Anything is possible, but unfortunately, I'm afraid if Russia continues to exercise restraint, if now we are facing this long-range strike deep into Russian territory, citizens of Russia and Russia itself, if Russia will continue to exercise restraint in couple of months' time, Western ruling class will make it clear that Kyiv regime is now nuclear. And I said there many times in the previous updates that, in my personal opinion, next phase of escalation by the West will be transformation of Kyiv regime from current terrorist regime into a nuclear-armed terrorist regime. And that's why Western media outlets, Western high-ranking officials almost on daily basis now are talking about possibility and potential of the Kyiv regime to go nuclear. So I hope I'm mistaken, by the way. I hope my reading of the big picture is wrong, but I'm afraid if Russia will continue exercising restraint, Western ruling class will continue what they already do, escalation, further escalation. And if now we are on a current stage of escalation is these long-range strikes deep into Russian territory, next stage will be nuclear escalation. They will turn this terrorist regime in Kyiv into a nuclear-armed terrorist regime, and then we will face strikes with dirty bombs, with atomic bombs. But again, let's hope my understanding of the big picture is mistaken, but only time will tell. And also, by the way, RIA Novosti is reporting that White House first time officially confirmed that they authorize long-range strikes deep into Russian territory. This was confirmed by official representative of White House, John Kirby. Of course, not surprised for any of us. Washington not just authorized strikes deep into Russian territory by ATACMS, but also strikes by British Storm Shadow missiles and French Scalp-EG missiles. And you might ask why France or UK needed a US authorization firstly, they are dependent on US, right? And secondly, in Storm Shadows and Scalp PG missiles that are similar missiles, by the way, they have just different name in different countries. Those missiles are using some parts from US, and therefore they needed authorization from US to deploy these weapon systems for strikes deep into Russia. And this authorization was given. And not just ATACMS were used to strike Russia, but also Storm Shadows, as you all are informed. Interfax news agency is reporting that United Kingdom, meanwhile, transferred another several dozens of Storm Shadow missiles to Kiev regime. And as I just said, I'm afraid in upcoming days, weeks, we will see more and more strikes deep into Russian territory with these long-range weapon systems, and I guess we might even see deployment of some other long-range weapon systems. I would not be surprised at all, even if German Taurus missiles will be deployed for strikes deep into Russia, or theoretically speaking, I mean, Western ruling class has no brakes, isn't it? So therefore, they might even order Washington to start using Tomahawk long-range cruise missiles for strike deep into Russia. It might happen, man. It's insane, I know, but I mean, we are living in these insane times when such things are happening as a direct long-range strikes, direct strikes on Russian territory by NATO member states. I mean, it is happening already. It's crazy, man. And by the way, I just mentioned that next phase of escalation by the West will be transformation of a terrorist regime in Kiev into a nuclear armed terrorist regime. And I guess high-ranking officials in Moscow and the intelligence community in Russia is also considering such a possibility, because former Russian president and current deputy chairman of the Security Council stated that transfer of nuclear weapons to Kiev regime will be considered as a direct attack on Russia. Well, obviously, understandable statement from Medvedev. Although, of course, NATO countries not gonna transfer their nuclear weapons to Kiev regime. They're gonna help Kiev regime to create dirty bombs, right? And as Times reported recently, in Kiev-controlled territory, according to that report, there is enough radioactive materials to create at least several hundred, by the way, low-yield atomic bombs. So Washington, London, or Paris, only nuclear states in NATO, are not gonna transfer their own nukes, isn't it? They're gonna help Kiev regime, and most likely they already are helping Kiev regime to develop their own atomic weapons. It's not gonna be modern type of weapons, but they can create atomic bombs that would be somewhat similar to what US dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japanese cities, during the Second World War. So I'm afraid my reading of the big picture is correct, but and now Russian high-ranking officials also are talking about such risks that West will transform this terrorist regime in Kiev into a nuclear-armed regime, terrorist regime. And when it comes to how Moscow will see it, I hope it will not come to that process. It will not come to it, because yet again, if now we are facing long-range missile strikes, with conventional warheads, in next phase of escalation, we might face nuclear strikes, and we don't want it, right? We don't want to see it. So therefore, I think time is up for further exercise of restraint on part of Moscow. It's it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate, but I guess Moscow right now is in a situation that I was talking about for many months before, in a corner, from which I guess only way out is deployment of some extreme force, because only in that case Western ruling class may start coming to their senses and escalating. But again, I hope I am wrong, but am I? I don't know. Time will tell. And by the way, well, if you think craziness of the Western ruling class, Western ruling elites has no boundaries, then you are absolutely correct, because we have this statement from high-ranking official of NATO, Admiral Rob Bauer, who basically stated that NATO is considering now and working on the plans for preemptive strikes on Russian territory, preemptive strikes on Russia. So they want to take out Russia's launchers. And he said it openly, by the way, that NATO is working on plans to conduct preemptive strike on Russia. That's what happens, by the way, when you are not keeping in check those crazies that are formally in charge of the collective West. They think they can do anything with impunity. And that's why I'm saying, by the way, that there is no time left for a further exercise of restraint on part of Moscow, I'm afraid. You know, you tell me what you think about all these developments, by the way. Does Western ruling class has a reverse gear or brakes? Or are they even capable of de-escalating without being forced to do so? I don't think so. And, well, official representative of the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, commented on the statements of Rob Bauer, NATO official, and she said that she commented that they did not read her updated version of the Russian nuclear doctrine. That was her response. Maybe they did. Maybe Western ruling class did read, and Western ruling elites, Western militaries, leadership read, and most likely they did. Updated version of the Russian nuclear doctrine. Question is, do they believe that Moscow will do something or not? That's the question. And I think Western ruling class is quite sure, and they are pushing this narrative for so long now in the Western propaganda that Moscow is bluffing and Moscow will do nothing, right? So I guess Western ruling class did read, updated their nuclear doctrine of the Russian Federation, but they think Russia will do nothing, Russian leadership. No matter how far in this escalation Western ruling class will go. That's where we are right now. They think Moscow is bluffing. And meanwhile, by the way, if you think all this stuff is crazy enough, there's more to come, by the way. More to come, because according to Le Monde, French media outlet, Macron and Stammer are in talks to deploy French and British militaries into Kiev-controlled territory. This topic was discussed earlier. There was many statements, and now they are going back to this topic, yet again, maybe because they think Moscow will do nothing. If they are convinced that Russian leadership in no circumstances will take strong actions against its enemies, against enemies of Russia, by the way, and Russian people. If Macron, Stammer, other so-called leaders or elites in the West really are thinking that Moscow will do nothing, no matter how hard or how much they will escalate with Russia, and how many Russian citizens they will kill, then of course they're going to consider also deployment of French and British troops. They're already attacking Russia directly with their missiles, right? With Scalp PG and Storm Shadow missiles. So they can also attack Russia with their troops. you know. They think they can do it with their impunity because at this point, after so many statements from different Russian officials in different times, after so many statements, I guess Western ruling class is convinced that all Moscow can do is come up with some statements. And as we already seen, by the way, this Oreshnik strike, Oreshnik missile system strike on Yuzhmash facility in Dnipropetrovsk city did not work. It just did not work. It made some headlines. People talk about this, but one thing is to target some factory of military industrial complex, and other thing is to take action against real decision makers that are authorizing killing of your citizens. And seems like Western ruling class believes that Moscow will do nothing against them or their assets, and that's why they authorized yet another strike with the ATACMS missiles deep into Russian territory yesterday. That happened yesterday night. And maybe I don't understand something, by the way. And probably, not probably, for sure, I don't understand anything really, right? But anyways, you know, RT is reporting that even Joe Rogan, by the way, world's most popular blogger, is commenting now on the current escalation, and he is quite upset about recent escalation by the Western ruling class against Russia, not because he's pro-Russian or he cares about Russia. He don't give them about Russia or Russians, right? I don't think he thinks about us ever. If all of us will die, probably he would not care. But he is realizing that while Western ruling class is dreaming about killing us all here in Russia, at some point we might also retaliate, and then the entire world is in trouble, right? Entire humanity, because full-scale war between or full-scale nuclear exchange between Russia and NATO gonna be end of everything. That's what Joe Rogan is cares about. Although I'm quite sure he's gonna be called a Russian apologist or pro-Russian or something like that. While I'm quite sure he just don't cares about us. By the way, if we all are dead tomorrow, probably he would not care about it. But he is realizing that his comfortable, rich life is being jeopardized now due to actions of his own leadership. That's what he cares about. That's why he's coming up with quite strong statements about decision-making process in Washington and in the collective West in general. I don't know Joe Rogan personally, by the way. Maybe my understanding is wrong once again, and maybe he cared very much about us, but I don't think so. He just cares about himself and his inner circle. And as an ordinary US citizen, or maybe extraordinary US citizen, he's upset that his lifestyle, his livelihood being jeopardized by his own crazy leadership. And when Joe Rogan starts talking about Third World War, I mean, things it seems like more and more people are getting it in the West, right? More and more people starting to realize that, wow, I mean, things are going too far. And it's no longer about killing Russians. I mean, we may end up in trouble too. That's what some people are starting to realize there, because no matter how long Russia will exercise restraint, at some point, still, it seems like still Moscow will be forced to use some strong force to achieve, to bring Western ruling elites to their senses until it's not too late. Anyways, let's continue. And TASS news agency is reporting that Canada already transferred 13.6 billion US dollars to Kiev regime for military aid and all the other type of assistance, not surprisingly. As if there is no issues in Canada, by the way. Everything is so fine that there is no need to spend money in Canada. They are sending billions to prolong this proxy war against Russia and jeopardize entire humanity, basically. Also, RT is reporting that Russia accuses Ukraine of massacring civilians in attempted false flag. The Russian Foreign Ministry has accused Ukrainian forces of executing civilians in a Donbas town as a part of false flag operation designed to wrongly frame Moscow for war crimes. Witnesses claim that mercenaries, including alleged Polish nationals, carried out the killing before retreating in the face of advancing Russian troops. Selidovo, this happened in Selidovo settlement, by the way, that is liberated now by Russian forces. So Selidovo, located about 15 kilometers south of Pokrovsk in Donetsk, was under Kiev control until it was fully secured by Russian forces on October 29th. The town had an estimated population of 21,000 in 2022. Rodion Miroshnik, a senior official in Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, tasked with gathering evidence of Ukrainian war crimes, stated on Monday that the killings were part of a deliberate effort by Kiev to accuse Russia of atrocities. When the West started talking about peace negotiations, Zelensky started preparing Bucha 2, but in Selidovo, he told RIA Novosti. Miroshkin further claimed that residents who fled the town testified to dozens of civilians being executed in the streets by Ukrainian soldiers and foreign mercenaries. They said that the Nazis, a term commonly used by Donbas residents to describe Kiev's forces, staged a bloodbath 2 or 3 days before the city was taken by Russian troops, he added. Witnesses provide names, addresses, and descriptions of the perpetrators, some of whom were said to speak Polish and wear Ukrainian uniforms. One testimony came from Vladimir Romanenko, who described how Ukrainian soldiers killed 5 of his family members and burned their bodies. I went out into the streets and heard shooting. A short man was shooting everyone out the house, faced the wall and shouting. Short man was shouting everyone out their house, faced the wall and began shooting, Romanenko said. He explained that he managed to escape, but later identified the bodies of his wife, sister, son, grandson, and niece, all of whom had been shot. An unnamed local woman recounted that the killings occurred after civilian representatives of the Ukrainian state left the town. There was no one there. Everyone left. We were abandoned, they said. There are no residents in Selidovo. They did not even bring us bread. Miroshnik suggested that Ukrainian forces and mercenaries attempted to blame Russia for their massacre but failed to complete their operation in time. So that's what they do, by the way. That's the face of the Kiev regime. And that's who is supported by collective West. It's mass murderers and they're terrorists, by the way. And according to reports that I see in Selidovo, those are Nazis executed more than 100 civilians. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that Kiev regime's forces are running away from eastern part of Velika and Novoselovka, as I reported yesterday Russian forces are conducting successful offensive operations, sectoral scale offensive operations in South Donetsk sector, and right now Russian troops already are conducting operations inside the Velika Novoselovka on southern eastern outskirts of this town. Let me show you on the map. So this is Velika Novoselovka, by the way, to have a better understanding. Let's zoom out first. So this is Kherson direction, of course. This is Zaporozhye, and this is South Donetsk sector, and this is Velika Novoselovka, right next to area that we called Vremevsky salient. So as you can see on the map, by the way, Russian armed forces already are conducting operations in eastern and southern outskirts of this city. Also, reports are coming in that Russian armed forces establish full control over the Razdolne settlement, also South Donetsk sector of the front line, and there are more information coming in about progress of the Russian armed forces in Ilinka, Elizavetovka, Romanovka area. All these three settlements are under full Russian control, according to reports that I see on internet, and Russian troops are conducting clearing operation in Vysyaly Gai area. So progress of Russian armed forces continues all along the front line, and Kyiv regime has no chances to regain initiative anywhere. Let's continue with some more news. And yesterday, Russian media reported about long-range precise strike on point of concentration of Kyiv regime forces in Kharkov. And according to some reports, one of the headquarters of Ukrainian neo-Nazi Kraken formation was targeted, and there was significant casualties among members of this Nazi group. Also, by the way, Argumenty Fakti newspaper is reporting about first documented case of destruction of F-16 that was transferred to Kyiv regime. This happened in Dnipropetrovsk as a result of Russian long-range precise strike. Initially, reports were that Russian armed forces destroyed MiG-29, but after video appeared, experts studied that video and they conclude that it was F-16 actually. So Argument is fact, and fact is coming up with their such headline that it is a first documented case of destruction of US made F-16. Documented because it was filmed, by the way. And now, before I continue, dear friends, let me notice that this media project is completely subscriber funded, and if you like my channels, if you like my work and want to support, you can do it with donation through PayPal or Boosty platforms, or by subscribing to my Patreon page or page on Boosty, where I'm publishing extra content, bonus content on regular basis, not just news updates, but other additional content also. All the links under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And also, dear friends, lately I become quite active, relatively active, let's say this way, on X. So therefore, if you are a member of X community or Twitter community, please consider to join our community there. We are growing a little bit, it's 671 of us right now. Maybe, we will reach 1,000 before end of this year. That will be good. And after all, Twitter X, as well as my Telegram channel or my channel on Rumble, pages on Patreon and Boosty definitely can be seen as a reserve lines of communication in case YouTube's administration will block my channel on this platform. So that's been said, let's continue with some more news. RIA Novosti is reporting that US military base was targeted In Syria, by the way, in Haseka province of Syria, 5 missiles exploded, according to media reports. Al Mayadin media outlet. This base was located or is located at Esh Shadadi in Haseki province, and according to reporter, at least 5 explosions was heard in that base as a result of rocket attack. No information about casualties among U.S. military personnel. RT is reporting that federal charges against Trump dismissed. U.S. direct court has granted special counsel Jack Smith's request to dismiss the federal case against President-elect Donald Trump, effectively ending the investigation into his conduct following the 2020 presidential elections. Good news for Trump, for his supporters. Although, by the way, I will notice that U.S. has quite interesting justice system, isn't it? Now that Trump is president-elect, these charges are dropped. But if he would lose elections, I'm quite sure these charges will not be dropped, and process will continue to prosecute him, right? So you tell me, is everything okay with U.S. justice system? Because if this person committed any crimes and there was an investigation, criminal investigation against him, then how you are dropping those investigations now? And if he didn't committed crimes and therefore you are dropping charges, then what the hell you were spending taxpayers' money and harassing this person for many, many months? So which one is? And officials in US love to talk about judiciary system and justice and this and that, isn't it? Unbelievable, man. RT is reporting that majority of Americans support Trump's mass deportation plan. According to polls, some 57% of Americans approve President-elect Donald Trump's proposed deportation of every single illegal immigrant in the US. A CBS News poll has found Democrat mayors and governors have voted to resist their incoming president's plans. Interesting data here. 57% wants mass deportations to happen of illegal migrants. Although, by the way, I have a quite different take on all this situation, migration crisis that is happening in US, partially in Europe, and therefore I think there may be, and most likely there will be deportations from US once Trump will get into office. And there are some restrictions will be adopted on the border between US and Mexico. But as far as I can understand, this process of artificially increasing US population is much deeper than what is discussed in the media. And therefore, I don't think we will see millions and millions of people being deported from US. Thousands, possibly tens of thousands, most likely yes, because after all, Trump promised that he will conduct mass deportations or something. So tens of thousands of people probably will be deported, but maybe like 10 times more people will go into US in that very time frame, because I believe certain very influential forces in US intentionally pushing these policies of open border to artificially increase population of US. They want US population to go bigger because as far as I understand, that's how they see, that's how they want to increase chances for US economy to be able to compete on a world stage with their other major economies, especially from Southeast or in the Pacifics. Share your opinion, dear friends, what you think on that. RT is reporting that Cyprus shares secret NATO plan with the US. According to media, Cyprus has shared a long-term plan with the US on how it believes it can join NATO despite opposition from longtime member Turkey. The Greek newspaper Katimerini claimed on a Sunday why Cyprus wants to join NATO. Really, I mean, what for? They want to spend more money for bureaucracy, NATO's bureaucracy. Okay, okay, but first of all, it will not happen, by the way. And as long as Turkey is a NATO member state, as long as Cyprus is not recognizing independence of the northern Cyprus, which is controlled by Turkey quite effectively, occupied and controlled. Until that is not happening, then there is no way Cyprus is going to join NATO, in my personal opinion, although who knows? Who knows? Anything is possible. RT is also reporting that Germany's Scholz, Germany's current Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, renominated for chancellorship by his Social Democratic Party. Okay, this party is in deep trouble, isn't it? If they cannot come up with a better alternative, then something is clearly wrong with them, because Scholz was probably most disastrous chancellor that Germany ever had. I mean, since the Second World War, I guess, at least, right? And in anyways, Olaf Scholz, I guess, has no chances, but it's up to German people. So RT is reporting that, well, in Georgia, unfortunately, this Western-controlled so-called opposition and their supporters are continuing their attempt to destabilize country in a hope to conduct regime change eventually. And they are enjoying full support of their collective West, majority of the countries in the collective West, and first of all, US Secret Services, State Department, and so on. And we know why. We know why. Georgian current leadership was very clear that there were forces in the West that were basically demanding Georgia to become a second front against Russia. Government in Georgia refused to sacrifice their fellow citizens, their interests and interests of Georgia, and therefore Washington wants to remove current government and put in place their puppets that will obey any orders whatsoever. And that's what is happening, by the way. I predicted that this will happen, isn't it? That Western ruling class will try to use their assets in Georgia to destabilize country, then conduct a regime change, and then sacrifice Georgia as a sort of second front. And we are observing that process right now, and how successful this process will be is dependent on how united Georgian society is, majority of Georgian society, and how united government of Georgia will be. If they stay strong, then Western assets will fail to overthrow government and to sacrifice country. But if cracks appear in the government and in public, then unfortunately, in that case, it will become highly likely that Western ruling class and their assets will prevail, and that may be the end of Georgia as we know it. RIA Novosti is reporting that Russia is considering possibility to deploy a medium-range missile systems in Asia, Oreshnik type of missile systems, basically in Asia, and this was stated by Deputy of their foreign minister Sergei Rabkov. Interesting, important statement, of course, especially interesting for Japan and South Korea, that are acting quite hostile towards Russia. But final decision not yet been made, and I guess final decision will be dependent on the policies of Tokyo and Seoul. And finally, dear friends, I'll give you this news from Interfax news agency that United Kingdom impose additional sanctions on Russia, and among other sanctions, United Kingdom is now imposing restrictions on some additional 30 Russian tankers that are involved in the transporting of Russian oil. I mean, they are unable to learn nothing, isn't it? They really are unable to learn anything, these so-called elites in the West, and in this particular case in United Kingdom. They can sanction entire Russian fleet, man. Entire Russian fleet, who cares? I mean, really, who cares? More crazy Western ruling class will go, more distance will appear between collective West and the rest of the world. That's what they're gonna achieve with this crazy behavior. That's what they're gonna achieve. They will isolate more and more collective West countries from the rest of the world. And this process is already underway, isn't it? Western ruling class was dreaming about isolating Russia, but what is happening in reality is that Western ruling class is getting more and more distance from the rest of the world and more isolated, therefore. And well, when it comes to this particular news, well, Russia successfully managed to deal with some 20,000+ Western sanctions, and of course Russia will deal with these additional sanctions also. No worries about that. And this is it for now, dear friends. A relatively long update, but hopefully you will find it informative, interesting, useful, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic you find interesting. This is the only way we can try to reach wider audience by influencing algorithm. It does not work always, this attempt to influence algorithm with the likes and comments, but sometimes it does works. So maybe it will work today, who knows. And dear friends, if you like my work, if you like my channels, and you want to support, you can do it. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care.